guys, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a fabric tumbler. So you want to start off with a prepped tumbler, and then you're going to want to go ahead and apply a heavy amount of Mod Podge. Have your fabric ready. You want to have your tumbler fabric cut at a 9 by 12. I kind of like to do a 9 by 14 just so I have an extra little bit of slack if I need it. And you want to go ahead and get your tumbler pretty coated heavy with the Mod Podge so that their fabric can adhere to your tumbler. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just really getting a really heavy coat of Mod Podge on and making sure that I'm smoothing all those edges out so there's no lines in my Mod Podge. So focus on making sure that you're getting this really heavily coated, and I'm just going to speed this up a little bit. As you can see, it kind of takes a little bit of time. So once you have the entire tumbler covered with your Mod Podge, now you're going to be ready to adhere your fabric to it. You want to fold your fabric over and make sure that you're lining this fabric up so that it's looking like it's seamless and you can't tell that this is going to be cut. So make sure that everything is really even, that if there's a design, you want to make sure that it's not crooked and everything is going to line up very even. So you see that I'm folding this over and I'm really making sure that everything looks really straight, and I'm pulling and I'm just kind of stretching this out. And as I'm doing and pulling, I am also rubbing out any wrinkles that are happening underneath the fabric. Once you get it kind of pulled tightly, some of the Mod Podge might kind of wrinkle, so just smooth out any little wrinkles that you have. It might take you a few times, you know, getting the fabric. You might have to take it off and then roll it back on. Might take you a few seconds to just get it on there the way that you like it. So just don't give up, just keep playing with it. And as long as you have a very thick coat of Mod Podge like we applied in the beginning, you won't have to worry about it. Your fabric will adhere to your cup. So don't be scared to pull that fabric back off and line anything up that you're not happy with. If you need to apply some more Mod Podge, if you feel like the Mod Podge has dried, just go ahead and add a little bit more on there so that your fabric can still stick. You want your fabric to be tight. You don't want there to be any wrinkles or anything, so just make sure you're really concentrating on making sure that your fabric is pulled tightly and fits very smoothly across your entire surface of your tumbler. Now, once you get the fabric covered the entire tumbler all the way to the seam part where your two ends are going to match, go ahead and cut off a little bit of that excess fabric, the little bit that's still that you're not going to need. Go ahead and cut some of that off so that you have a pretty good straight line. So one side still has a good bit of fabric hanging off of it, but this side we want to go ahead and lay this side flat and straight down just like the rest of the tumbler. So you see that I'm going ahead and I'm applying more Mod Podge just so that I can lay this down flat, and I'm making sure I am coating this pretty heavily. And you want to go ahead and do this a little further out, about an inch or two out from that, the end of that side of the fabric. That way that you, when we go to cut the fabric, the Mod Podge will stiffen the fabric up. So that's why we coat the little bit extra on there, a little bit more, just to make sure that the fabric can stiffen up. Now you want to go ahead and fold your fabric over, Make sure everything's lining up right over to the Mod Podge that we just put on top of the fabric. Make sure you're getting it tied really tight. Smooth everything down. Fold it over. Make sure you're happy with everything that's lining up. And now you're going to have this little piece that's going to be not sticking to the tumbler because you didn't bring out your entire Mod Podge. So now what we're going to do is that fabric that's laying underneath of there, we need to cut a seamless line. So what we're going to do is we are going to coat our fabric one more time with a whole bunch of Mod Podge so that when we go to cut this seamless line, we can have a very straight, clean cut. By applying a lot of Mod Podge, a few layers of Mod Podge, like I said before, that will help stiffen your fabric up and it will allow you to cut a very straight, seamless line. So here I go again, coating the entire tumbler with the Mod Podge again. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because this is just applying Mod Podge over your entire tumbler. Once you've coated your entire tumbler and you've got a good thick heavy coat on it, go ahead and let it dry. Make sure that Mod Podge is fully dry before you come back for the next step. So here we are back after we've allowed our tumbler and our Mod Podge to dry fully. Our fabric has stiffened up. We're going to take a piece of washi tape, and you can use any type of tape. I like to use washi tape just because it's not as sticky and it doesn't adhere to the fabric as bad, and I don't have to worry about any sticky residue being left on the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line my fat washi tape up very straight so that I know where to cut. This kind of acts as like our little ruler, so we know where to cut our fabric now. You want to make sure that you're using an extremely sharp razor or a razor blade. To whatever you're going to use to cut your fabric, you want to make sure that it's a brand new blade. If you have a brand new blade, this will be a lot easier. Now you're just going to follow the washi tape down the side and cut a very straight line. You want to cut all the way through the fabric, and once you hear that your blade is kind of rubbing on this stainless, you know that you've cut through both layers of fabric, because we are cutting over that flap that the two fabrics are over top of each other. So just cut that all the way down. Make sure you got a really straight line, and then you can go ahead and remove your piece of washi tape. You want to go ahead and give it a little slit all the way down your fabric to make sure now that you can pull this piece that we just cut all the way back. Now, remember the piece that we went ahead and we folded over. You're going to want to unfold that and pull that piece that's underneath of there out also. So that way that you don't have any lumps underneath of your fabric, and we can line this two pieces up perfect, and it's a straight line, and it's a great little seamless seam. And now here comes more Mod Podging. So go ahead and take some more Mod Podge and go ahead and get it on your tumbler, coat it on there so that we can line these two edges up and we can finish the seam. So I'm just going to fold these two edges over, and I'm just going to kind of pinch them together, kind of pulling that fabric to make sure that everything lines up very, very straight and touching each other. The edges are touching, so that you don't want this to look like you had to make a seam at all. So you want this to be as straight as possible, and you might have to do a little bit of pulling, a little tugging, but as long as we cut it at a straight line, this will line up perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a tad. That way we can move on to the next step. All I'm doing here is just pulling and making sure this lines up as perfect as I can get it. Once you've got it perfectly lined and you're happy with it, guess what their time is? More Mod Podge. So go ahead and add some more Mod Podge to your entire cup of fabric, and this will be our last coat of Mod Podge, and this is going to ensure that we're sealing all that pretty color in there, so that when we add our layer of epoxy, our fabric will not bleed. You might want to do at least 2 or 3 coats of Mod Podge on this layer, depending on how many layers you've done already. You want to make sure that you've at least put 2 to 3 layers of Mod Podge total on between all the steps that you've done. If you've not done at least 3 layers of Mod Podge, go ahead and at least do that, so that you ensure that your fabric is not going to bleed under the epoxy. So on your last step, what we're going to do is we're going to cut our glitter edges. So I like to have a little bit of a rim where I can put glitter on the both sides, the top and the bottom, and I like to cut the fabric so that I know so that the rim is an even line all the way around. So I take this little cup edging tool that I get from Wicked Shimmer, and it goes ahead, and it's a razor blade, and it just goes ahead and you just turn your cup right around on your cup edging tool, and it cuts the fabric in an even line all the way around your cup. So my cup edging tool's razor blade isn't as sharp, so it didn't cut through the fabric like I would want to. So I'm just going to go back in with my X-Acto knife and cut this because it has a brand new blade on it. So I'm just going to cut right where it kind of gave me the line from the razor cup edging tool, and I'm just going to cut right along that line and make sure that my fabric is cut all the way through. And you'll know that it's cut all the way through when you hear your blade hit that stainless steel. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up so that we can move on to the top part of the cup edging. Once you've cut your edge all the way around, you can go ahead and pull that piece of fabric right off, and you see how that cut is perfect. It's even all the way around your tumbler. It is great. That tool is amazing if you do fabric tumblers, even if you do full wrap tumblers, any type of thing that you need to cut like an edge on your tumbler, this is a great tool. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our top, and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to take our cup edging tool and we're going to hold our cup right up against the bottom of this, and we are going to put a little bit of pressure, and we're just going to kind of move this around our cup, turning our cup, making sure that we're getting it all the way through that fabric and turning it so that it is cutting that straight line all the way around your tumbler. once you get it cut, just go ahead and remove your fabric just like we did with the bottom. And now you can see where you have this perfect even edge on the top and the bottom. If you moved any of the fabric around because it was still a little wet, just go ahead and fix any little imperfections that you need to fix. And that is it, guys. You could go ahead and give this one more coat of Mod Podge and let it dry, and then you can go ahead and add your glitter rim. So I will be back to show you guys how to do that. That will be our part 2 for our fabric tumbler tutorial. I hope you guys learned something. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.